Now, if you were like me, and you've beaten Fallout 4 many, many times under all kinds of stipulations and all kinds of rules, one thing may have stuck out to you as being consistent throughout every single playthrough. No matter how you play, no matter what you do, your character always has a specific build, and usually some items that stick with you throughout. That got me thinking, what if I just didn't? What if instead of staying with this one gun or this one baseball bat or whatever it is I'm using throughout the game, what if I changed it on almost every single combat encounter? So today we aim to find out, can you beat Fallout 4 as an identity thief? Okay, some of you are probably already thinking, wait a minute, didn't that guy already do this thing? Yes, twice, and two different guys in fact. You see, this was originally a challenge run done by Nerbit, who released the video a couple years ago. Now, this was originally done in New Vegas. However, a couple of months ago from when I'm recording, our very own Casual Loop actually attempted the run in Fallout 3. So today I thought I might as well take the run to Fallout 4. I'm gonna be completely honest, the main reason I'm doing this run is because it gets a chuckle out of me every time I think of the poor viewers who think this is probably all part of some series, only to find out that not one of the runs was done by the same person. Anyways, that's enough about me and my weird sense of humor. Let's talk rules. Originally, when Nerbit did the run, he did this whole I'm gonna switch every time I kill somebody, which led to a lot of very entertaining scenarios. However, the issue with Fallout 4 and doing this is Fallout 4's combat is a lot more fast-paced, and there are actually a lot of encounters with enemies that aren't even human, so I had to find some workarounds. For my version of this run, it's not whoever we killed last, it's whoever we want to turn into. This means I could technically stay in the skin of the first person I kill and go throughout the entire game, or I could change identities every time I kill somebody. It's really up to me. I'm also allowing the collection of ammo and ammo only, just so I don't have to rely on gun bashing or melee weapons. Now, this isn't unlimited, hey, I could pick up whatever ammo I want. No, I can only pick up ammo for whatever gun I'm holding. If at any point I discard that gun by changing identities, I then have to drop all my ammo and start from scratch again. The main reason I'm doing this is because of large-scale encounters like Fort Hagen, which would be an absolute slog with the original rules of this run. I am allowed to use bottle caps, however, I am not allowed to purchase any kind of weapon, armor, or ammo with them, and I'm only allowed to use them to heal rads or buy junk for building the story MacGuffins. Other than that, anything goes, and I'm free to play this run how I see fit. Anyways, I've yapped for far too long this time. Let's get into the run. Starting off, I make a beeline straight to Red Rocket, as right now I actually don't have an identity. Seriously, who am I? What am I? My existential crisis aside, I managed to find a suitable host in the form of this rather lovely dead body on the floor. The drifter whose identity I stole had a tire iron as well as a pipe pistol, but I really only got any use out of the tire iron. This use was bludgeoning the nearby raiders in Concord. I didn't actually plan on siding with the Minutemen today, so I didn't go through all the dialogue with Preston, but still an extra point in perception is always nice. After finding a suitable corpse, I made my way to Drumlin Diner to handle things over there. By handle, I mean destroy, as I killed Wolfgang and Simone. I was split between which of them I should choose, as although Simone had better armor and a few bits of healing, Wolfgang had a much better weapon, as the bolt-action pipe rifle really sucks. I ended up going with Wolfgang, not that it actually mattered because I wouldn't be getting much out of him. It was around here I got my first level, by the way, and I ended up putting the point into Cannibal. Heals are few and far between during this run, so it'd be important that I could at least sustain myself for a little while. With Wolfgang's skin in place of my own, I started heading south. Now, you may think that I'd be heading to Diamond City or maybe even Cambridge to help the Brotherhood, but you would be wrong. I headed somewhere a little east of both of those places, that being the Old North Church. Yes, today is finally that day. I will be working with the railroad for a major portion of this run. I hate to even say it. I showed Deacon what a real impersonator looks like before the both of us made our way over to the Switchboard. Now, originally I thought this quest would be okay. I may not be able to turn into the synths, but there are plenty of railroad agents littering the floor. Here's the issue. I was under the impression that said railroad agents had pipe pistols on their body. They do not, so I'm sure you guys know what that means. After exhausting the little ammo I had from Wolfgang, I had to rely on Deacon. It's always a treat to have to go through the Switchboard with only Deacon. After frankly too much time than I care to admit, Deacon carved a path to the Switchboard's vault, and I was able to secure a new identity in the form of Whisper. A bit of a gray area here in that you don't actually pick up the deliverer off Whisper's corpse, but Deacon does say that it belonged to Whisper, and he technically pulled it off Whisper's corpse, so I'm gonna allow it. Not that I'd get too much use out of it, mind you. Back at the Railroad HQ, I do something very fitting for this run, being that I actually adopt the identity of someone I'm impersonating. Okay, with one of the few good weapons I'd get during this run, I decided it would be time to deal with Park Street Station. Originally, I planned on using the Deliver and picking up 10mm rounds off the Triggerman, but I quickly realized that wasn't really sustainable. The issue was I wouldn't actually get enough ammo for the Deliverer to actually keep it supplied through the entire vault, so I made, shall we say, a questionable decision. After clearing out the first room as good old Whisper, I ripped the skin off of one of the nearby Triggermen and placed it firmly on my own. I decided I'd be one of the submachine gun variants, and there was actually a reason for this. You see, I went through the entirety of Park Street Station going from Triggerman to Triggerman, as every time I picked up a new submachine gun, it would have 50 rounds already preloaded into it, which was more than enough to handle a few Triggermen, get me a new submachine gun, and I wasn't ever really in danger of not having ammo. Not to say that this was easy, mind you. I was about on par with the Triggerman in terms of squishiness, which meant I kept having to run back and forth between the different beds to make sure I was always topped up for every combat encounter. Eventually, I made my way into the vault, where I used another submachine gun to take out Dino, before promptly taking his. As Dino, I free Nick, and the both of us make our way out of the vault. The final encounter with Skinny was somewhat problematic, but thankfully, even though it took a while, Nick was able to draw aggro, which let me unload into Skinny. I then took his namesake as my own, and now I'm king of the castle. By the time I exited the vault, I had about 300 rounds for the submachine gun, which I figured would be more than enough for Fort Hagen. Oh boy, was I wrong. So a bit of an important thing here is I cannot become synth super mutants or feral ghouls, as they're not technically people I can impersonate. That is why I was so stuck on getting as much ammo as humanly possible in Park Street Station. It's because I needed enough to make it through the entirety of Fort Hagen. I figured 300 rounds is a lot of shots, I'd be able to handle things. Turns out I was very wrong. The synths are so much more tanky than the Triggermen, which meant I couldn't actually get through the first couple of rooms without spending over 100 rounds. On top of that, Skinny's vestments didn't exactly provide me with good energy resistance, so the synths were absolutely chunking me. If I was a smart man, I would have invested in good perception, that way I had the refractor perk, but unfortunately I'm not a smart man. Turns out no energy resistance and no ammo leads to a very, very bad time in Fort Hagen. So my solution to this? Running. I just ran through the entire fort, only making sure to take care of the turret so I could rest at the bed in the end. Now if you thought things would get better for Kellogg, you were mistaken. Kellogg was, as you can imagine, even worse than the synths. He could take me out in a couple shots, had grenades, stealth boys, and backup. Many attempts went into this, and the winning one ended up being, I guess, somewhat strategic. I used a good chunk of rounds and VATS to cripple one of the synth's legs so that he wouldn't follow me into the back room. I then killed the second synth as he ran after me, allowing me to face off against Kellogg alone. It took a while, but thankfully for me, Kellogg didn't seem too keen on using his stimpaks and instead wanted to use his last stealth boy. I was able to kill him as he was in the animation, finally finishing off this encounter. It also was the first time in this run where I actually got a pretty decent kit to work with. 2 stimpaks, a stealth boy, and a single grenade, as well as Kellogg's armor and weapon of course. I then forced Kellogg to relive some traumatic memories so that I could progress the story. Now as you can imagine, the glowing sea was, well, a lot of running. Normally I try to fight at least a few things at the glowing sea, but I have limited ammo so I'm not messing around with anything there. Also, fun little fact about this segment of the run, originally I wasn't going to allow caps at all. It wasn't till this point that I remembered just how many rads there were in the glowing sea though, which is why I had to change the rules. One quick chat with Vermont sends me to Green Tech to deal with the Courser, and sadly this too was a lot of running. Looking back at the footage, I definitely should have battled my way through Green Tech so that I could get some good loot off of a few gunners. A good chunk of the gunners have stimpaks, and for the most part they use either laser pistols or upgraded 10mm. Both of those are very good and would have been more than adequate to deal with the Courser. The issue was I was feeling a little attached to Kellogg's gear at this point, seeing as it was the first thing in the run that I got that was actually good, and I became determined to use it on the Courser. Not that his kit was ideal for taking out the Courser, mind you, and I ended up having to resort to something a little cheesy. Hey, if Kellogg's kit supplies me with a stealth boy, I'm gonna use that to trick the Courser into thinking he has no ammo. Once the Not Terminator is determined to fight me mano-a-mano, I just bully him with Kellogg's pistol until he hands over his brain bits. I then take said brain bits to the unfortunately alive Railroad, who go through this whole theater performance to do something I can do in all of 2 seconds. Another crappy bit about the Railroad is that if you don't actually have the Mercer safe house, they won't supply you with the materials to build all the interceptor parts. This just meant I had to use my caps to buy some junk, which honestly isn't all that bad. Tinker, Tom, and Desdemona then zap me over to the Institute because they really can't be bothered to do any of their work themselves. At the Institute, I chatted up with Sean, then chatted up with all the little eggheads. It's now time for synth retention, and I had a surprising amount of trouble with this quest. Now going in, I'm the courser mind you, so I have a pretty good setup. The issue is that stupid Fat Man Raider, who for some reason was snorting something up there, because he would launch that crap willy-nilly and blow me along with all his friends up in a heartbeat. On top of that, I became determined to get his Fat Man from him, so that led to a lot of very uncomfortable moments. Thankfully, after many alternate realities where I got blown to pieces, I was able to secure me a nice Fat Man, as well as a serrated machete. I decided to conduct a little science experiment of my own, and it just so happened to be on the Institute science experiment. Turns out one mini nuke plus a synthetic organism mixed together with a very bored Californian equals a whole lot of burnt plastic. Despite failing horrifically at the job Sean gave me, he says, "Okay, can you do another one?" And so it's time for Bunker Hill. At Bunker Hill, I use my last mini nuke to suck the identity straight out of a few railroad heavies. This lets me effortlessly slink into their base, where I take out a Brotherhood initiate and steal his pistol. In case you're wondering, this is the pistol from the free creation Bethesda released about a week before this run started. The pistol was good, but unfortunately it wasn't good enough to take out my not-so-welcome backup, so I had to resort to leading him over to the Brotherhood Paladin, who promptly eviscerated him. As a Brotherhood initiate, I took out all the synths. That way nobody wins in Bunker Hill. While leaving Bunker Hill, I kill one last Railroad Heavy, allowing me to finally complete the prophecy and play Fallout 4 as a Railroad Heavy. I was hoping by killing the synths, I would be able to relay the news to Desdemona and piss her off. Unfortunately for her, she got stuck in a bit of a dialogue loop, which I try to help free her from. This didn't sit well with the rest of the Railroad though, so they had to suffer a bit of an accident. Turns out the Railroad Heavies actually have a pretty good toolkit, as this little hunting rifle was legitimately one of the best weapons I got during this playthrough. Sadly, I ran out of ammo shooting Pam, so instead I had to go from one heavy to another, as Glory's my next identity. Back at the Institute, I start Mass Fusion and get ready to wrap up their quests. But you may notice that if I continue the way I am, I'm gonna have to fight the Brotherhood at full force over at the Boston airport. You're probably wondering, how am I gonna do that? I have no heals. I've been struggling up until this point to get anything done in the run, and it's simple. I'm not. The double agent becomes a triple agent, as guess who's actually on good terms with the Brotherhood? Taking the news of the Institute's invasion of Mass Fusion to the Brotherhood, I'm promoted to Knight, and I'm allowed to continue things from their side of the quest. Now, what was originally gonna be a triple cross turned into an absolute disaster. You see, Mass Fusion, which is normally a pretty solid quest, completely broke for me. I think something was wrong with Ingram, as she wouldn't complete any of her dialogues, and she kept just disappearing. On top of that, some of you probably saw this problem from a mile away, but I don't actually have a way to deal with the radiation in the room with the agitator. That second problem is something I could solve right now by going to 4-leaf fish packing, somehow completing this puzzle without getting my arms ripped off by aGhoul, and trading Glory out for Walter White. All Walter had was a pipe pistol, but more importantly, he was wearing a hazmat suit, which is enough for me. Now here's where the problems with Ingram really started to kick me in the shins. I needed Ingram to defend me the entire way through Mass Fusion, as believe it or not, a single pipe pistol and a hazmat suit with no energy protection doesn't do well against a load of synths. Now I could get through the first half of Mass Fusion just fine, but the issues came up when I had to deal with the security system. Normally in a run like this, I would just let Ingram handle things, as she is somewhat reliable at taking down the sentry bot and Assaultrons. The issue is, like I said, she's been bugged the entire quest, and sometimes she would just not get up, and on occasion, she would get stuck in this sort of state of living death, where she seemed to be brain dead, but her body would still move around. You see, I had gotten forced into a bit of a checkmate, mainly due to my own decisions. Either I brought a good gun in, but would die to the rads, or I would use my hazmat suit and would die to the robots. After legit like 10 reloads, one of which even took me through the entirety of Mass Fusion again, I was able to get Ingram to kill the sentry bot, but then she immediately died to the Assaultron twins. She then entered that sort of stasis again, and I was stuck. At this point, I had lost all hope, and I was genuinely considering quitting the run. As a final, and I do mean final, last-ditch effort, I separated one of the Assaultrons from the other by locking it in the radiation room with me. I was barely able to scrap a victory with my unupgraded pipe pistol, but I went through most of my ammo doing this, and I wasn't feeling confident that I'd be able to take the second one with my smidgen of health. But here is where a miracle occurred. While I was leaving the radiation room to try to take on the second Assaultron, I heard one of the most beautiful things I've heard in a while in a run. Ingram's voice. Something about me killing the first Assaultron seemed to snap a wire back into Ingram's brain as she woke up. I have no idea what caused this, and frankly, I don't want to know. I was just smiling the whole time this happened, because at this point I was pushing 3 hours on Mass Fusion alone. Me and Ingram were able to focus down the final Assaultron, as well as close up the last of the robots. Sadly, Breaking Bad ends here as I sack off Walt in exchange for one of these Brotherhood scribes. Using said scribe, I march my butt over to Fort Strong, where I take care of all the mutants and even the behemoth. In case you're wondering why I'm doing so much damage, for longer combat encounters like these ones, I did have to drop the difficulty, just because I physically did not have enough ammo to actually handle these. Yes, I could have resorted to gun bashing, but that's not very fun now, is it? I realized I didn't actually have enough ammo to clear out the inside of the fort too, however, so I decided to play a bit of the game. I fast traveled to the middle of Boston, and the next person I see would be my new identity. It wound up being a few raiders, who all happened to have shotguns. I'm not complaining, I love me a good old double barrel. The shotgun is more than enough to take care of most of the mutants, and when things got a little hairy, I even had a Molotov to back me up. I then turned around to witness the saddest welding goggles you ever did see, before making my way back to the Bridwin. Dr. Lee's a bust, so the Brotherhood's questline does a bit of a freestyle. I have to go find the mysterious Dr. Scara, who looks like Dr. Lee, talks like Dr. Lee, and for all intents and purposes is Dr. Lee. Weirdly enough, while I was in Diamond City doing this, I actually got the In Sheep's Clothing quest. I have not seen this in a very long time, so I decided I might as well do it. I wound up serving McDonagh Justice Diamond City style, netting me a new position as mayor of Diamond City. Piper then decides to mix things up today, as she decided to bring up a Geneva of her own when she violated the Geneva Convention by murdering McDonagh's hostage. God, I love this game. After this, it's time for Sentinel Site, which leads to more running. I did play nice with the Children of Adam, mainly because I'd be needing them very shortly. You see, when you drop the elevator, you're actually attacked by a glowing one, who promptly revives a pack of feral ghouls. However, like a true mayor, I delegated my task to the nearby children. I'm then tasked to take care of the Brotherhood's toaster problem, and sorry, no Dance Revolution today. Him and the rest of the Misfit toys are dealt nothing but lead. Now, it gets a bit awkward when I realize I have to adopt Dance's identity if I want his dog tags. The problem is, Dance doesn't actually hold any weapons. Well, this shouldn't be too bad. Actually, for a nice change of pace, it wasn't. The next quest for the Brotherhood is actually taking down the railroad, and thankfully there are enough dead bodies there that I could go ahead and try and impersonate. I start by becoming that which I sought to destroy, before getting a little confused in the tunnels, as I was having a bit of an identity crisis. This led to me killing a few Brotherhood soldiers, and acquiring a shiny new pistol to boot. The pistol makes short work of the rest of the railroad, and I'm free to report my successful failures back to Captain Kells. Thanks to me already going through the trouble of mass fusion, I'm actually free to start the final quest right away. I tried to participate in the taking of the Institute, but Maxon and the rest of the Knights are such crackheads that they just bore a hole through all the synths, leaving no room for me to even attack. However, interestingly enough, inside, I was able to kill another Brotherhood Initiate, who not only gave me a better pistol, but would infinitely respawn. More ammo for me, I guess. The combined efforts of the Initiates and all their ammo was able to take down most of the synths inside the Institute, letting me have one final face-to-face with Father. However, this lasted about as long as a bullet can fly, netting me a brand new personality. John Sickbody then makes the touchdown of a century when he dive bombs straight into the middle of the Institute, plants the pulse charge emitter, and makes his most daring escape yet. He then ditches Mini-Me because he in fact does not complete me, and then presses the big red button, sealing the Institute's fate, finishing the game, and proving yes, you can beat Fallout 4 as an identity thief. It's just really difficult. I guess I was emboldened by the idea that this run has already been done by other people in other games, so I would be fine. I was not fine. This was easily one of the hardest Fallout 4 runs I've ever had to do. In general, with restrictive videos, they kind of fall into two camps, whereas I'm either doing enough damage but don't have armor, or not doing any damage but can compensate with a lot of armor. This one was both, simultaneously, and that alone makes it one of the hardest runs I've ever done. If you want anything to tell you just how difficult I found this run and how frustrating it was, during the run, I got so fed up with it that I started filming a video for Dark Souls 2, and I found that less frustrating than this run. Regardless, that's all I have for you in today's video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like or maybe even subscribing. My name's Christian, but most people know me as aGhoul, and I'll see you in the next video.